Thank you.
I'll sit because. So I had a few, but the last one I just saw the way the lots were split. And then the road divides to these sections. I can't really point it on the map, but I imagine each lot is going to have an egress two-sided to their lots. It's kind of a weird way that it's dividing these spaces to be used.
Yeah, instead of being just on the property boundary, how it splits those lots.
Yeah, so it means that we're driving across that industrially, and it's kind of the main egress. And then if there was any design criteria for the industrial, or when I first heard about this, I heard it was the desire of Danielle was to make it less like the industrial site in Pinedale. And I wonder if there was is that part of a commission or the zoning's control, or is that part of the owner for design criteria?
So any covenants that is definitely in within the committee of who is designing it. So we don't have anything to do.
So each individual can do something different.
Well, but it's up to whoever is doing the subdivision, and if they have a what would you call it for industrial, as a homeowner association, if it's
still be a form of
an HOA, a form of an HOA,
Okay,
and then they have their covenants, and it's their responsibility to put whatever they want that to look like.
Okay.
And then they make those covenants, and then it's upon them to enforce those covenants as well. So yeah, as far as like what those lots look like, as long as it doesn't violate any of our rules or regulations, then then we don't have any authority over that.
Okay.
There are, just to be clear, they did submit as part of their application their covenants, and there are design and construction standards.
Oh, okay.
Here.
It's 4 pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then the other one was an HOA type of road maintenance, and I kind of answered that. It has a kind of an HOA. Those were my first things I spotted. And that's it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Was your first comment about the road concern about it being blocked or something? I wasn't quite sure what your concern
it's
was.
just the way you use those little spaces that are.
Yeah, it's my understanding they're almost considered unusable, would you say, Brian?
Yeah.
There's no
You
plan.
can't see what we're pointing to, but
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. On the west side,
well, this
on there's just
little
that little
strip
strip.
here, it's, I don't know.
But I didn't see any offshoot roads going to that section, so it would just be a kind of a rough use of it, maybe.
Yeah, because
Nothing planned.
it was an existing road that was already there, and so that's just kind of how
Okay.
That's
how it
they
played
get
out.
the 2 acres by going stretching over here a little
Yep.
faster. That's why is this room?
All right, and that's part of the covenants control to not make that road pinched
Yep.
by stuff on each side.
maybe you'd be interested in seeing this. This is what she gave us as just an example of something aesthetically. Is that a fair?
That's on the multifamily though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that looks nice. But I don't think the industrial looked that good.
Maybe.
All right.
Great. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, sir. Is there any other questions or comments in the room?
Oh, me?
No, you're good. Not you yet. I'm just looking. Okay, is there anyone on, oh, what's that? Oh, yeah. Bettina, would you like to go ahead, ma'am?
Yes, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, thank you very much. I have 3 questions. My biggest concern is with the speed limits, and as far as the single entrance currently off of 189 into the property, people coming off through the intersection of 191 and 189, they might slow down, but then there is no reduction in speed limit after that point. Going into the intersection, I believe it's 55. and then they will encounter this exit into the property. So that's one concern. They're driving 55 miles an hour into the property. And then the second one is people coming off of 191 from the Jackson area. I think the speed limit there is 50, maybe it's 55 as well. But they'll be coming around into that circular exit and exiting onto 189. So I guess in general, my concern is with the speed that people will be going, and then potentially turning into the subdivision. I did not attend the commission meeting. Was there discussion about this? And was the Department of Transportation consulted, and might they have any concern about this? That's my first question. Thank you.
I mean, we got a response from YDOT about access permitting. That was it.
Yes, please.
So yeah, we did have a conversation with YDOT. We've got to do an approach permit with them to change the use of the approach based on the proposed use as block 1 right now. We don't anticipate a high enough volume to require any changes. However, if somebody were to come in and put up some bigger, higher use facility that had a lot more traffic, that may trigger something else down the road from YDOT, but that would have to be dealt with, I guess, at the time they built something bigger and higher use than what we're anticipating for the industrial. So as it sits right now, YDOT said they were comfortable with that approach as is and didn't see any issues with the proposed use. As I said, with Highway 354 and that connection, there's some details to work out with them on that. But Darren, when I talked to Darren at YDOT, he thought the proximity to the whole intersection in general of 189 and 191 and the speeds and the volumes were not, I guess, not a concern because they're low enough and the speeds are low enough to where all this is at that he said we should be okay. So.
Perfect. Does that answer your question, Bettina?
Well, it doesn't. The amount of traffic depend a lot on what uses are what businesses are going to be in those lots, and what times they will be open.
It could, and the highway commercial would be the one that is maybe has the biggest variability or the unknowns. And I guess at that time, if a business were to come in and do something substantially or add a substantial amount, they would be required to potentially mitigate it and upgrade, or maybe put in a turn lane or a free right kind of a thing, or a decel lane. But it kind of depends on the numbers and what YDOT requires. And so we're basically following their access manual and their rules to what we're doing. And like I said, based on our uses and anticipated volumes thus far, they don't anticipate any additional work on the highway. So.
Okay, thank you. Second question.
Yes, ma'am.
If this plat is approved, does that give the next phase or plat number 2 an assumed approval? Well, what is the relationship, but procedurally, I guess?
No, it doesn't. So basically they're coming just for the first block. So that's all that we're focused on tonight, is just the block 1 that is in the light industrial subdivision portion of it. So no, that we will address the block 2, which is what they had discussed earlier in the meeting, at a later date, possibly in a year or so. They'll bring it back whenever they're ready to move forward with that. But right now, we're just focusing on block 1. So no, it doesn't give any definite on block 2 at all. That'll be a whole separate issue.
Okay, my third comment has to do with it's a theoretical question, and there's probably not an answer, but how likely is it that people are going to buy into the residence part of this, the plat 2 or the second phase, being across the road from an industrial site, or even 5 industrial sites, if each tract has a different kind of business on it. I just throw that out there. I'd love to hear some answers. Thank you.
Sure, I can answer that one.
Maybe Ms. Dover can answer, speak in some way to that, or not, whatever you wish.
When that part comes, I don't plan on selling those. So they would just be like developed for rentals, basically. So, and I mean, as far as that goes, we have right next to Old Brazil, right? Those houses that are right there. And then you have light industrial and you have, storage units right there that aren't impacting people wanting to live there either. So I don't think that it's going to be a big enough deal that someone's not going to want to live there. And if everything then is developed nicely, then it's also not, being parked behind a bunch of abandoned cars or anything like that. So that's my theory.
Well, and I guess like my first thought would be what a great opportunity for anyone owning those industrial sites for employee housing.
Sure.
If they want to provide it, or it's an option
Yeah.
for their employees to rent it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I guess that's my first thought, is that that's a really great opportunity
Right.
for those businesses, because lack of housing is
A big deal.
a big deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's very limited supply of rentals, especially affordable. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Did you
guess-
have any other questions, Bettina?
One question, yes, my last question has to do with the referred master plan. I did not see that in the list of attachments on the website. And it's my understanding that the county commissioners approved a master plan for this subdivision. Is that correct? And could that be made available?
Yes, that is correct. And I do believe it's on there.
Where can she find it, Tess? On the agenda. Tess is saying it's on the agenda. There's a link to it. But that was in, if I remember right, May 17th, 2022 meeting. But yeah, I'm not sure that the master plan actually is in the new application. Like what we looked at back then is different than what we have in the application, but this map looks a lot like what we had in that application that we have in front of us tonight.
Well, there, it's part of the.
Oh, we can't see it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you referring to a master plan in text? I mean, with textual narrative, or just?
No, I'm just saying, no, it wasn't. It was mainly like a map, and then we discussed it at that meeting back in 2022. Yeah. So in 2022, we had something that looked a lot very similar to this, but it was slightly different. But that's basically the same thing.
All right, I did see that then. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other public comments or questions?
I'll just say, when Bettina was talking, would you mind bringing that map up again, Tess, please? Thanks. I mean, it's interesting. I was driving by tonight and I was noticing, that property kind of sits down a little bit, and I was thinking, that you do have a lot of visibility, and there's a lot going on at that, and the visibility is good. It is interesting to think about an industrial, we've got 35-foot building heights. So you imagine if we had 35-foot buildings here, that you're coming down, you lose your visibility over here. These people can't see over there. That's a reasonable concern. I'm assuming YDOT considered all that, and we would have heard from them if they were concerned. It's good. It's a 55-mile-per-hour zone instead of a 70 for that reason, maybe. But I had never really thought about it until Bettina's comment. But you could have some. What are our setbacks in industrial? Light industrial. Don't remember that. I think they're not much. Yeah, so if you had folks, I don't know. It's a reasonable concern.
Front
That-
and rear is 30 feet,
30 feet.
side is 20.
Yeah. That's all. Just a thought. Nothing conclusive. Just,
Yeah,
it's a good thing to consider.
for sure.
What we see there where the highway is that the whole highway easement? Is the setback from the property line or from an easement?
It's a good question.
It's the same.
Yeah, they're the same.
Property line easement.
It's the easement.
So YDOT doesn't require a greater setback or anything for their easement. Okay.
All right. Thoughts? Questions?
No other public. No. Oh, I did have one other question for the applicant, which is, the conservation district pointed out, I can't remember the exact terminology. I think it was something along the line, very limited use or something like that. Concerns around the soil's ability to function properly, I think, with regard to septic. They raised that concern in their report. And in fact, we did have someone write in this afternoon, sent something about, the Hoback Junction disaster with those septics going awry and stuff, saying, be careful of this when you consider tonight's application. So I think, that's someone from the public concerned about that comment, I guess. But I wonder if maybe we could have the engineer comment on that concern raised in the Conservation District's report.
This is like page 2 and 3 or something.
I don't remember. Geez, I'd have to go. I think if you search the term limited use, you'll find they refer to it. Let me see if I can find it. So many docs. Please feel free.
Yeah, if I may, the Conservation District did a good job actually providing a nice report on the soils, because if you weren't aware of the history, it's the old Whiteout gravel pit. So that area was higher at one point in time. They mined it out, and they took all the good sand and gravel, or most of it. So what's left is the bottom of the pit, and there are places where the perk rates were pretty slow. Some places on the property, we did perk tests for the water and sewer study, of course, and some places did perk pretty fast and reasonably well. Other places were pretty slow. So depending on the use and the desired use and how much sewer demand you have, it could require a fairly large septic system. Hence the reason the limited, I guess the limit on the multifamily is that will be limited by size of septic and volume because of the soils. And so that the septic systems could get quite large depending on, soils and how much water they're going to use. So, but we did get a decent perk rate, but like I said, some were fairly slow.
So I take that to mean that you will size the septic system according to what you see and where you do end up putting the septic systems in order to respond to the absorption rate of the soils. Is that
Correct?
How I should read what you just said?
Correct. Yes.
But Brian, if I may say, as an engineer, you know that when you get things like this correct, there are workarounds around that, like whether it's a mound system or fill or whatever. It's not something that should be
and there's
taken like too much.
too much. No.
You should be taking it seriously, but there's always a workaround at any area really, with any sort of septic or engineered system.
Yeah, and there's enough. The soils on the site did perk, like I said, so a solution is possible. How big is the solution or how small, I guess, depends on the lots of variables. And a lot of lots in the county have pretty good gravel and sand and perk really fast, so septic systems are easy. And there's some lots on here, this property that are not that easy. So they're going to require a little bit bigger system, which if you go to other places or other counties with poor soils, it's pretty, I guess it's more common than here maybe, but certainly possible. Yeah,
So what would you say, I mean, just to the member of the public that's skeptical that, this is going to be done right or something. I'm not, there's no accusation, but I'm just wondering, what would you say? Because Goodrich, right? I mean, obviously there's lots of things you can do. I hear you saying we've got tools in the toolbox. Someone who's skeptical might say, yeah, but are they going to use them? They're just going to do it as cheaply as they can. And, there might be problems. Are there safety mechanisms along the road? DEQ is going to make sure that it meets their criteria that could leave the public with some level of comfort that it will be done right.
Yeah, and if it all meets the DEQ standards, it will be done right. I mean, that's what they're there for, and that's their job is to ensure that septic systems are good for everybody around. And the one caution you might have is instead of a 50 square foot septic system or leach field on this, it might be a couple hundred square feet in size, so it's going to take up more room than maybe your standard one or what you think it might. So,
well, in reality, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the lower perk rates, it's not a risk of contamination like the member of the public. It's like sewage coming up in your floor drain or something like that because it's not percolating into the soil.
Right.
So it behooves, I guess, the owner to over X and put in fill or size it correctly.
Yeah.
Anybody building even on these industrial lots will still have to pull a septic permit with the county, whether it's done by an engineer. They will still pull a permit and show us the designs. I mean, if it doesn't require that level, then whomever is in the office will be the first line of defense to check the perk rates, size the system, make sure it's all good. So, I mean, just because it's an industrial lot or a commercial lot doesn't mean that people would follow some different process than you or I as far as their well and their septic.
A lot of the issues in Hoback Junction is due to even poor water wells being drilled and shallow wells, right? There's a lot of that was developed decades ago when there weren't regulations by the state. They changed a lot of the regulations even in 2008 to make stricter standards for well drilling. And so some of the issues that Hoback sees is that they have super shallow wells, they have and then they have their septics that are probably not, or their leach fields not spaced out far enough from their well, and then not proper surface seals done, at the surface. That then all of those regulations by the state, they were not keeping track of those or, enforcing those until, 2008. So that's where a lot of the problems come from, the Hoback Junction and their water issues. So.
Thank you. It's like musical microphones. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Oh, okay, sir. Come on, go ahead and come on up. Yeah.
Tom Haggard again. What about existing wells that are shallow? In this situation now we're talking, I didn't even think about that, but our well is 60 feet. I mean, we probably should be considering going deeper once we get more. That might be an engineer question. Are we in jeopardy of more septic on a shallow well?
And so for everybody else's information, can you tell everybody where your place is at?
I don't know the number. Three.
Where is it on this map?
13133.
So
Here?
Oh,
the old brick building?
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. It's the old state building.
And it's my understanding that the industrial can have one residence on it. Is that true? So
That's correct.
each one of these can have residence as well.
Correct.
Okay.
And I mean, I think that is a great question, because you also have the
Yep,
old Ram
Ram.
place
Right.
right
They're
there.
probably even shallower
I can imagine.
and dug.
But from my understanding, that's why they're 2 acre minimums.
Mhm.
And this individual would not be able to, let's say your well's here, they have to be an X distance away from your
So all
well.
that is
So
taken
they,
consideration.
they have to, if this one puts his well here, this person has to probably scoot their septic over here. So,
Right. I know it's a little dance. Okay.
so
So in development, when they get the polar permit, they do have to look at neighbors' wells and everything
yeah,
too.
Yes.
well would be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That kind of answers it in a way.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you.
Oh.
Think for that? Okay. I don't know, Alan.
I wasn't.
I know.
I'm not here, so-
I know. We heard that you do. All right, so if there isn't any other questions or comments, is someone,
I just just to say, I had sent an email about this, but just we didn't get a chance to talk about it. So I had never seen this before. I've read the regs many times, but it just jumped out at me in this go round that there's this statement in our regulations that say the board shall further require that the provisions of said covenants, the covenants that we got as part of the application, and that will ultimately become final and part of this, or any portion thereof may not be amended without the prior written consent of the board. So that's an interesting statement because it requires the board to require the provisions of those covenants. So it's not optional. We, and when I say we, it's really the Board of County Commissioners, have to do that. So I just think that's an interesting juxtaposition against what the county has been saying for several years. Well, ever since I've been on the board, what I've heard is a mantra around this county will not basically have, any hand in enforcement of covenants or HOA rules or whatever. So this isn't saying we have to enforce them, but it's just interesting because we have been in the regs rewrites, we were kind of detaching ourselves from covenants in the spattering of things that were there. We have Clayton here, or did he leave? So I don't know. I wonder if you could speak to this, Clayton. Like, it feels like a weird kind of catch-22 in some ways, but the language is very clear.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Chris, that's an interesting question. We've actually discussed it at length from like the kind of academic perspective of what this looks like. I don't know exactly when this provision became part of the regulations. I believe, and I think Brian may actually be able to give more history on this because you were probably doing subdivisions when this happened. I don't know. I don't know. No, it's not what I said.
Ouch.
It's not what I said. Jeez. So, but the reality is what we do. So the regulations require that covenants exist.
Mm-hmm.
So the prohibition on changing those covenants without commissioner approval essentially protects against a situation wherein this table is my land and I come before the board and I say I want to divide it up, so on and so forth, and I'm going to provide the following covenants, so on and so forth, to ease the minds of this group of esteemed individuals. And then the next group of esteemed individuals that sit in those same chairs, and I get the stamp of approval, and then the next day, since I own all of the land and to modify the covenants, I just need the buy-in of all the landowners, and that's just myself, that I go out and say, never mind, I'm changing and getting rid of my covenants.
Right.
And it's a backstop against that.
Right.
But to your point, yes, it doesn't create a situation when we start enforcing them.
So it doesn't mean we, okay.
Doesn't
So,
mean we
so that
enforce
makes
them.
sense. Right. Because the covenants are, the one major subdivision that we went to before, we did not have them in front of us. And, that I feel like having them in front of us is an extremely useful part of this process. It's because it does mitigate a lot of the concerns. We see where they're aiming at. So I can see that it has a huge influence on, how we feel about a given application, what their covenants are and stuff. So I can see that it is an important part of the application. And right, you wouldn't want someone to just go make it 180 degrees the other way after they leave and get it approved.
Precisely. And the other thing that it does is it also protects the landowners that are in there in the event that you have, because each covenant process will have an amendment built in, an amendment process built into it generally. So for example, if it only required 80% of the change or 80%, you have those few landowners that are not the majority that are protected against a majority changing a covenant that would have a significant detrimental effect on them. So it is interesting because covenants are a weird animal, because you end up in a situation where folks see, oh, there's covenants in this neighborhood. Sweet. That's wonderful. I know that I'm protected against a person building whatever fence, 12 chicken coops, whatever it may be. And then they say, okay, and my neighbor's building this, somebody stop them. And everyone says, go right ahead. Go right ahead and enforce the contract that exists, that is your covenant.
Right.
So a covenant is as valuable as a landowner's willingness to step up to the plate and enforce it.
So because in one way you start to look at them and you think, okay, that kind of looks like a condition. However, a condition would be enforced by the county. A covenant would not.
Correct. Precisely.
So I guess that begs the question, if there are any things that we really feel are important for our approval of the application that are in the covenants of this application or the next one, then we should make them a condition as well.
You can, certainly. You have the authority to do that. I would say just keep in mind that the backstop on that is that they have to be reasonable.
Right, of course. Yeah. Of course, Clayton, come on.
I know you're anything, of course you're reasonable. No one's ever accused you of not being reasonable. Or any commissioner of that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for talking that through.
Of course.
So then I wonder if we do want to talk about conditions, or it's a question on the table.
Right. Does anybody have any conditions in mind?
I do believe the owner didn't want the junkyard, salvage yard, right? Would you want that to be a condition?
I mean, nobody wants conditions.
I don't know. Would you rather it be a condition, or I don't know. I'm a newbie. I have no idea. Back me up, Chips. Okay, good.
I mean, I really like a lot of the covenants.
I do too.
And I'm inclined to make some of them conditions for the purpose of
So much paper.
kind of some additional enforcement, but
If I might, do we all have these in front of us then, or?
the covenants.
Yeah.
Not gonna feel hurt when I recycle
They're
this
noted
tomorrow,
as
right?
declaration of covenants and conditions, restrictions.
Yeah. I mean, they're all ordered.
Not after I've.
Not anymore, yeah.
Mine were.
Mine could
did
be over
make
in
your
Chase's
decision.
file. I have no idea.
It's fantastic.
You did a lovely job putting all this together. If you find it for me, I'll do that.
Oh, there you go.
Right under that.
Oh, thank you.
It's towards the back of the agenda.
Got this.
Yeah.
The last one or the second to last? Oh, found it.
A particular note to me was the applicants on the back of the first page general restrictions, B, where she, I think you'll recall, prohibited wrecking yards. You know, some of the other restrictions talk more about siding and color and
Right.
not typically our concern. But B spoke to uses, prohibited uses.
Are these drafts or is this?
This is just a draft. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, although I do like A under design and construction standards. I think that is a good one too. But yeah, I agree with your comment. Most of what I thought about when I thought about this was under that section that you referred to, general restrictions.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So,
I needed to come. Get the musical saxophone.
Casey Fairbanks. So, from my understanding, the covenants can be amended. There's usually an amendment process built in to the rules. If you guys make the current covenants a condition, what if it gets amended? How does that, I mean, where does
Then
that?
they're two separate animals. I think what we're doing in this case is we're looking at what the applicant has put forward and saying, you know, we like that. We think that's a good thing to make a condition. If they then veered later, then the condition would stand. Of course, this all assumes that the Board of County Commissioners then, but if the Board of County Commissioners put those conditions forth and there's a variance, then the conditions are just separate from the covenants.
So is it common practice for a zoning board to make covenants a condition? Wouldn't
It's common
covenants
practice
be-
for a zoning board to make conditions.
Yes,
The mechanism by which you get there, who knows?
gotcha. So I guess my concern would be a precedent set that, okay, these are the covenants, these are, you know, amendable contract between property owners here in one certain zone or in one certain subdivision, and then the zoning board making it a common practice to make that certain set of covenants that are more restrictive for that specific zoning or specific subdivision, you know, condition on every one of them. Just seems like something that isn't common, wouldn't be common practice. The subdivision itself would have these specific covenants, and all of a sudden making, oh, these covenants are conditioned, locks those in, so the amendment process would be pointless, I guess.
If I might, I understand what you're saying, and I generally wouldn't say we are seeking to make their covenants a condition. We are essentially just saying, cutting in, oh, we like this sentence.
Gotcha.
I mean, we could have taken that from
Not the entirety
standard
of the thing.
conditions.
Okay.
We're just saying we like this. Clause B, prohibited use, sanitary landfills, fur farms, you know, salvage yards, which are
Gotcha.
allowed uses.
Yes. Okay.
By right, but yeah, so that's not really.
That answers my question. Yes. Thanks.
But there is the point that by adding condition is allowing us is kind of taking away some of the autonomy of the landowner and giving us in some ways more of a hand in it. And I do think that that's a fine line. Especially when these covenants generally are from the landowner coming to us as planning and zoning, generally outlining their vision of what it is. And then we make sure it follows the code of planning and zoning. If not, seems like there should be an open dialogue on how to address that, rather than adding a condition into approval. And I can see where I probably don't agree with that either, honestly. I can see where.
And I would agree with you on that. I don't agree with putting these as conditions. I think that they've done a great job of putting them in as covenants. And I definitely recognize and appreciate your thoughts on making it a condition. But I feel like it is a slippery slope. And like I said, and I think that they've done a great job with this. And I don't believe that we should make any of these conditions.
Yeah, I saw the email exchange and didn't respond to that because I wanted to see what the discussion was like here tonight. And I'm sure you can all guess that I generally agree with these statements as well. I think just in my business, I see covenants that have been altered over time to, by the owners within a subdivision that have decided, like, we used to not allow chickens. Now we want to allow chickens because eggs are $10 a dozen or something like that. And I think that the owners within a subdivision ought to be able to make that decision without coming before the county. I guess all that being said, I get the, using this as kind of a cheat sheet for, like, if we're considering an application and the covenants are explicit in, restricting some use, which it may have been a use that we were considering restricting anyway. That just makes that an easy decision to, like, oh yeah, let's throw this condition in there. But I would also be hesitant to just cut and pasting that. And to Casey's point, I guess the precedence of, like, yeah, maybe tonight we're going to say we're going to take this one line, but 3-5 years from now, it may be that this board is saying, well, that board, 5 years ago was using covenants and making them conditions, and that just becomes how we do things at that point. So I guess in that way, I'm hesitant to do it as well.
Yeah, I hear that. I would say, I guess I'd say that I don't think the chicken example is a fair characterization of what I'm proposing here, because I'm not saying we turn all the covenants into conditions. There are some things I think that in some ways we haven't heard, and I think that this application is a bit different because we haven't gotten a ton of public comment. I think, I think about the Elkhorn application. I mean, first I'll just say conditions are not a bad thing. I think, like, oftentimes conditions are a tool in order to say yes to something instead of just having to say no, right? Like, so it's like, how do we get there from here? How do we create a win-win? How do we mitigate public concerns? How do we make sure that health and safety's taken care of appropriately, but still support this application because we think it's a good thing for the county? So I just want to take off the table that conditions are a bad thing. I think they're actually a really useful tool. But we look here too, and we think about things that we've talked about in the regulation revisions. The covenant, all exterior lighting shall be dark sky compliant and downward facing. Now, we didn't do dark sky compliance in our regulations, but we did a lot of work around exterior lighting, which aims in that same direction as far as trying to just make sure that there's considerations. So I personally like that. I think it aims towards compliance with probably, to be fair, it's more overly compliant with probably where we're going in our regulation rewrite, but it puts it on track to kind of aim in the same direction. So I tend to think that's a positive thing to try to support. So I'd be looking at just trying to put us in sync is what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking about taking all of the things but on the other hand, it does give me a lot of relief that they're there in the first place and the applicant thought of them and their covenants, and that they do have to come before the Board of County Commissioners if they want to change them. It's just, as Clayton was saying, it's just a different tool. Like, we have no ability to enforce anything. So if there is anything that we think is important, and anything in our regulation rewrite won't apply to this because it's not going to be retroactive. So if there's anything that we don't want to be, dang, I wish we would have thought of this because it's really out of sync with where we're going, it's a worthwhile consideration.
And maybe, like, to your point, in the future, if there are covenants that aren't addressing something particularly, and we'd say we would want to approve this in order for us to approve it and move it forward, maybe we would put a condition in the future, like what you're saying, to address something that we don't see in a covenant that seems like it needs to be acknowledged. So I think that's good.
So referring back to the point that you brought up earlier, Chris, in regards to block 2, is it at this point, like, do we include it in with this, that we, if that was how we were to choose to move forward, that we put some kind of stipulations? What are your thoughts? A timeline on block 2?
What's that?
Like, it needs to be added when they bring to final part.
And what do you think, can you just, because we're not in the mechanics of this like you are, what would the implications, like, what's that mean if that happened? And maybe you could repeat that so folks can hear.
I thought Holly was maybe getting at, as far as addressing the block 2, were you trying to like get around a condition, like how to address it?
No, I was trying to figure out, like, how do we, if we proceeded that we wanted to put a timeline on the development of block 2, like,
right.
How, what does that look like? Like, how do we include this? How does that structured?
I mean, I think just offhand, what one option is at the time of final, that they bring it to final plat, that it's built, it's shown. So that means they have to address the things that they were talking about that they needed to address. Is that correct?
So the time that they bring final plat of block 1, they have the preliminary plat of block 2 done. Sorry, am I not understanding this correctly?
Alan?
I'm not following your question either. I mean, don't they have like 10 days to bring the final plat to the county commissioners, or 30 days? Or 30 days after the review?
Well, I think it's just kind of tricky because there's been a couple of extensions, right? So substantial completion, when you do a rezone that is tied to a major subdivision, has a 2-year time period, and that substantial completion is final plat, right? So we just have a little different scenario because a couple of extensions were approved by the county commissioners, right? So it's really more of like maybe a policy thing, because it's not really spelled out in the regulations how to address that. That it doesn't mean that they can't come in 2 phases. It's just the regulations are silent on what like process and procedure would be. Yeah.
I'm gonna buy another microphone.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tricky. I mean, obviously the applicant wants to get this done. We want to see it get done. So there's some synchronicity there. I mean, maybe when's the current extension go until?
December
31st or whatever.
Final plat. Is that right? Maybe we can bring it up.
What is substantial development? Final plat. And that's December 2025, it says.
Okay.
That's December 2025. So right now, because we've only been through this process once and we've never been through final plat as a commission. So help us understand the process, like what would you do if we did nothing, no conditions or anything, or whatever, this gets approved, then it goes to the Board of County Commissioners, gets approved. How would you treat block 2 in the final plat? Would it just be non-existent and later you would do a preliminary and a final plat for block 2?
Remain block 2 on there just like it is.
Right. So it would not, basically you're only doing a preliminary and a final plat for block 1. And then later you would do a preliminary and a final plat for block 2. Is that correct?
Well, block 2 is within the bounds of this subdivision. If you read the limits of this subdivision, it is within it. The block is just a way to define it as another lot that's going to be divided up in the future. So it is within the bounds of the subdivision.
Final plats typically have a lot of detail, though. I would think you'd have to flesh that out in block 2 in order to finalize that? No? No?
So it would be the red line of block 1. It's not any more that needs done on it.
I don't know. It seems like we would have to come back.
Well, the subdivision part couldn't occur, correct?
Yeah, to then redefine block 2 into further lots, yeah, it would be a whole nother application.
So block 2 would exist as the entire boundary of block 2.
All right, that makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. I mean,
It is tricky.
Frankly, I feel like it's probably not a big deal, but if it were a pattern, I would feel very different. Not a pattern from this applicant. I mean, if it were a pattern in the county, I think it
Right.
could be a problem. What's the likelihood of that happening? Probably slim to none.
Mhm.
But I guess, I mean, I think what we could do is just voice we could voice it either as a condition, or we could just voice it as a comment at the commissioner meeting that it's something for them to consider, and we can suggest that they may want to put some sort of timeline by which they get a report from the applicant on the status and updates for block 2, or that something along those lines.
And because, so ultimately, if they develop block 1 and then just hypothetically, block 2 sits there for 2 years, that section of it will revert back to A1, correct? If they're beyond the timeline.
I mean, that's a possibility. So reversion and zoning, right, would have to be initiated, by the planning and zoning department and go through the public hearing process to revert it back to its original zoning. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't just leave the GIS the next day or something.
Right.
And it says in the regulations it would revert through the same process by which it was changed. That's paraphrasing.
I guess I wasn't even considering that. I kind of thought if they did this first phase, that would take the table of reversion of the other portion off the table, because it was all approved as one thing, substantial development, final plat on a part of it. I don't know, in my mind, I wasn't even thinking that the block 2 would be subject to a reversion by default. I thought that we would, if we wanted that as a, we'd have to add it, but it sounds like you think it might be.
I think that it's something that any board here or at the county commissioners could certainly contemplate. Like I said, it's a tricky, it's kind of a, it's in the gray because our regulations don't speak to phases per se. And like Chris said, I'm not saying that it's a big deal. It's just these are like possible pathways to address questions you're bringing up.
Right. Well, and if that's true, then we don't need to do anything. I mean, if that happens by default, then there's a natural built-in mitigation, and they could go before the Board of County Commissioners and ask for extension if they want it, but there's something there already.
Yeah.
By default, you mean the reverting back to act?
The option or prospect of a reversion for block 2 back to the original thing.
Yeah.
Is that correct though? If block 2 is included in this preliminary and final plat, even if it's not subdivided, is it accepted and part of the entire, like what is being presented now, or could block 2 on its own be reverted?
I mean, honestly, I think it's a policy thing. I'm sorry. I mean, I could say yes or no if it called it out, but like I said, there's a 2-year in the we're just going by what's written down, and now we're improvising. Oh, here.
Yes.
Oh, here. The lawyer's going to improvise now.
Yes.
Do you want me to weigh in on this? Okay. So, and we had a long conversation about this as well. And this is not contemplated in the regulations. Right? So we all agree that that's not something that's contemplated. To your earlier conversation, I believe what Tess was saying is that one of the potential options is to say, if you're coming to final plat, come to us with the rest of that filled in. This is a preliminary plat. You have a somewhat of an idea what it's going to look like. The landowner has somewhat of an idea what it's going to look like, depending on whether or not this comes in at a 90 or it comes parallel, whatever it might be. So you could condition it and say, if you come to final plat, make sure you've got every lot figured out. So I think that's one way you could approach it. So I think the problem exists when you get into what was described as gray area before, is you are in a space where we don't know. Nobody really knows. And so the question that Commissioner Harbor is asking is like, well, is that actually true that it's part of the whole subdivision? And this is where I would respectfully disagree with the landowner surveyor in the situation. If we have a final plat on this subdivision, then that is the final plat on that piece. And this guy hangs out there with the potential risk of being terminated, as Tess said, at the whim of the county could say, hey, we're going to go ahead and terminate that. We're going to terminate the zone change, and it will then be terminated. And at that point, its original zoning would then come back, which is A1. Yes, that takes a process, so on and so forth. So I think there's a potential risk that the landowner is taking by asking to the county to step into the gray and say, hey, I want to step into the gray. This is a risk that the landowner is taking. I don't know exactly how that's going to pan out, because ultimately, when it comes to some of these things, it is going to be what is the will of the county in that space. Because I think the county could, because it's silent, because the regulations are silent on this aspect of block 1 versus block 2, they could just let it roll. Right. And they could say, we're going to let it roll, we're going to do this, and county commissioners could follow suit. And the next thing you know, we've got this. Then in years to come, other subdivision folks can say, hey, we're doing it in 2 blocks. Well, we still left it silent. We can still address it in our update and try and build in some safeguards here. It is a weird space to walk out into the gray when everybody knows you're walking out into the gray. I hope that kind of answers that question. I don't know if it does, because it's a weird question. I don't.
I mean, isn't phasing a very common thing in subdivisions? And so, how is it done appropriately? Like, can we have a condition that no lots can be sold in that block 2 until the road's complete, or something like that? Does that count as a phase?
So if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know all of the history of the subdivisions in Sublette County, but I believe that those subsequent phases, when we talk, I mean, we're all used to seeing Barger phase 48, whatever, how many phases that were done in Barger. Those were done as a separate subdivision.
Right.
They weren't one giant subdivision, and then we're going to take it one bite at a time. Because when we think about it, we bring it totally back to the macro level of when the decision was made to rezone this. The county at the time made a legislative decision and said, yes, we believe at this point in time, based on the circumstances, based on the findings that we considered, we made a legislative decision that says that multifamily is good right here. The county also said light industrial is good right here. Highway commercial is good right here. We leave this here. They've made that decision, and they've also said, get it done in 2 years. And that's the decision that's been made. And so, for example, moving forward, saying we're going to go ahead and allow that to be phase 2, you've got this chunk just hanging out there with a question mark. And a future commission could say, we are going to direct our employee, planning and zoning administrator, initiate termination. And it could be terminated. And I think that's a risk that the landowner is taking. And if your landowner is communicating to you, I'm willing to take that risk, the county, from a policy perspective, could say, okay, well, if you want to take that risk, you can take that risk. But I don't think the county has the authority or the ability at this point to guarantee to a landowner that they will be able to develop those 3 lots in the future at some point in time.
All right.
Because we don't address it.
It sounds like there's tools in the toolbox if the county says, you know what, we don't believe that you're ever going to do anything with these lots.
And I would suggest that we use the word terminate, just because there is.
Okay, terminate.
Yeah, sorry.
But what we've seen so far, the applicant seems to indicate a good faith effort to do this. The county seems to have indicated a good faith effort for them to do it, because there's been a couple of extensions. So the county wants it, the applicant wants it. There's no reason to think right now that it's not going to happen. But if 10 years from now they've never done a block 2, county has, it sounds like, a legal basis to terminate.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good read of the tea leaves of kind of what we're seeing if we're gonna try and predict the decision making of the higher board, so to speak. But I think this situation highlights another place in our regulations that could really use some massaging by this group as you're moving forward. What does this look like? Because yeah, it makes complete sense exactly why the landowner is saying, candidly, I can't get there because I have a few unanswered questions and we need some money to make it happen. So it makes complete sense why a landowner would want to do that in this situation. And if Sublette County wants to be in their regulations moving forward to help landowners in these situations to, as the comprehensive plan says, to have these economic opportunities to use with their land, it could be some massaging and some update in here. So
I mean, to me, then it sounds like
I would agree.
and that's completely, I think that we're in enough of an ambiguous area that I think the county, as Tess is kind of saying, the county can make that policy type decision.
Thank you.
Of course.
Great clarification.
A little wordy for me.
I like his verbiage though. We need to massage that idea.
Yeah. Massage.
I will say that I think that the language, I was trying to look for it, I can't find it right now, but I know this came up before. I think the language in the regulations says that the Board of County Commissioners shall terminate or revoke or whatever the language is. So for the applicant, I would just say, what that means, I would make sure I'm back in front of the Board of County Commissioners asking for an extension before that happens, because it just avoids the gray area. But
All right, any other comments? Do you have anything else?
I guess I'll just say I'm willing, after our conversation about the covenants, I think if we had a bunch of public comment that was here, I would be a lot more interested in turning covenants into conditions to mitigate public concern. I don't hear a lot of that. We have heard about the water concern. I feel like we've heard from the applicant with some information from Tess that mitigates that concern for me. So I'm willing to forego the conditions, any turning covenants into conditions myself.
Okay. All right, so with that being said, is anyone prepared to make a motion?
If I might, I'm uncertain.
All right, you gotta take this back.
Oh, geez.
I have one right here. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, if I read this correctly, I think we should enumerate that we find in the,
Having considered.
right,
Yes.
before we make any motion to.
So we typically make that in the motion, correct? But we've considered the 10, or yeah, it is 10 findings, right?
Well, we've done it a couple ways.
We have
It's
that.
been like have each of the, can we get a verbal yes, each of the commissioners has considered the findings before we go. And then we've also done it.
This is 7 findings.
This is it 7.
Page 104.
I would suggest we just make it as part of the motion.
So, and just to clarify,
Yes.
in your zone change, you're to consider those findings.
Okay.
Here, you actually need to make these
the
findings.
findings.
These are a yes or a no.
Okay.
So each of these, the question of A, gross subdivision conforms with all the provisions, yada, yada, yada. You all need to actually decide yes or no, does it concur
On each of
Okay.
those.
on each of those.
Okay. Hey, thank
I
you.
think you could make a motion and say, I move that we approve that all of these are satisfied. I think you could do that,
Okay.
and you have discussion, so on and so forth, to support that. You could do it probably in one foul swoop, or you could do it.
Okay.
But if the downside of that is if any one of us had any of the findings of no, we would have to vote no to that motion, right?
Precisely.
Yeah, okay.
Is anyone going to vote no to any of those?
Although if any of us found the answer to be no to any of those, we'd have to vote no to all of them. I think they all have to be made in the affirmative, right?
if you do them in one chunk. And here's where
So
we ran into,
you might as well.
or here's what happened.
Well, even if you don't do them all in one chunk, right?
Well, yes, so what we did before, in the last time that there was a preliminary plat, is it was a yes upon a certain condition being satisfied. So
Right.
if you recall, it was on the 5 acre issue
Mhm.
for that last thing. So it was a
guess
yes,
that
this
goes
is a
preliminary.
yes, so long as at final plat, it's 5 acres.
Right.
Are we doing all of them?
It just
Do you
to-
want to get, do you know?
if we were to make a motion and let's just say, for instance, we did a motion that just includes all of them, it fails. We could go through a more onerous process, but to try to make this quick, we could just make a motion with all of them.
It's your guys's.
Just say yes or no.
Yes, I say we just make it in one as part of the motion.
So I just need to say that we have considered the 7 findings,
Oh, that we agree.
or that we agree
That we made.
that they have been met.
They have been met, yes.
I think it's the language.
Oh,
Would be something, having made the 7 findings, I make a motion having made the 7 findings in the affirmative to recommend approval of the application. Others 9.
A through I.
It's the last time I trust you.
There
Chase.
is, well, it says, I was reading the headline where it says 7 required findings.
Oh, section 7.
Yeah.
section.
We need like a hyphen after the 7.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So I am motioning that we agree that it has met. Okay. So I'll make a motion that the application has met the 9 required findings, that we all agree that it has met the 9 required findings.
And to approve.
We're doing that all in
We
one?
have to do 2 different.
Yeah, no, it's one motion.
Yeah,
To recommend
and-
approval.
To recommend approval.
Okay. And to recommend approval, do I need to go through the description?
Yeah.
To the county commissioners for, the application proposing a preliminary plat to create 5 lots of light industrial.
Sorry, next time I'll prepare verbiage.
Well, usually the description
Yeah. they're just
is kind of sufficient, but the summary is a little
It looks much better.
wordy.
Or it'd be in the agenda too, the
Oh, yeah.
language that you need.
Does anybody have an agenda?
I gave one to you.
Well, I know, but it's buried somewhere. Thanks.
He's got it.
So just recommend approval to the county commissioners for the application for Mountain Meadows Creek LLC preliminary plat for major subdivision.
Could I suggest a friendly amendment that, how do we do this? It's not a condition, but that, I may be on the condition that the lack of the septic systems being designated on the plat be addressed before the Board of County Commissioners. Is that a reasonable request of you? Is that okay to do? Okay. So
I'll accept that amendment.
thanks.
I have to repeat it? Shoot, I'm getting heckled.
Okay, so we have a motion that the 9 findings have been met and that we would like to recommend to approve the preliminary plat for the Mountain Meadows Creek LLC major subdivision. All in favor, say aye.
On the condition that
Oh,
they address
sorry.
the,
Yes, on the condition that before they take it to the county commissioners, that they address the location of the septic systems. All in favor, say aye.
do we have it?
No,
We
we
don't
have
have
a
a
second.
second. I'll second it.
Oh, shit. I'm on the struggle bus today, sorry. And
I'll
we have a second. Okay. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thanks for that.
All right, with that being said, I'm going to take a brief break,
Thank you.
5-minute break. Sound good to everybody?
Yep.
We'll reconvene at 8 o'clock.
I actually did start counting, and then I just saw, I looked up, so I started, I'm like A, B, C, and then I saw 7 required findings. I'm like, oh, all right. There should be a hyphen there. Well, a lot of times we'll have it like written out for either approval or denial or whatever, and you know, yeah, that language. I'm just gonna write one up and have it handy.
Well, the thing is, isn't it all you have to do is to say that? I mean, or do you have to say?
Well, it's gone.
Say the 4 and 3.
Yeah, super long. And so, yeah, I think that there has been discussion with Clayton about that. Like, can't we just,
You're going back to the agenda.
right.
There.
So, yeah, because that was like when I was on the town P&Z, I would just say the application from whoever as presented or something like that, or with these conditions. But I wouldn't, you know, read out the entire, like the property description and.
Right, because I remember you reading it.
Yeah.
I was looking at those things on.
Yeah.
Deal.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Mike's like, you might want to get the right one. Like,
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna-
so can I ask, is there any way I can get a printed copy of everything ahead of time? Because I only have 2 computer screens and a very little brain. So this is a lot. Or I can come and sit in your office and we can go over that.
I mean, just call and say you'd like one and have one all printed out.
So when do you print these up though for us?
Chris always likes one digitally.
And I have the digital ones and I went through them.
I'm kind of. Usually 10 days before.
Okay, that's plenty of time. I did all this in 6 days before the meeting. And that was a lot. So,
Yeah, generally it's.
This is just an objective. Right. But what I can do is like. Really don't have the rest of that, right? Your responsibility. You know. I agree. It could be seen as a. So, you know, sometimes all those things are never. His, that's everyone's restricted to what you think is appropriate. Yeah, it's nothing, you know, that could be a cross junction potentially. Does that make sense? Yes.
Just a general.
Yes. That, there's a whole conditions that it's like. Yeah, I mean, and I don't understand it. Yeah. Because all the uses are not available.
generally an approval.
Yeah, I mean, there's criteria, pretty technical criteria. Classes. You just need to survey.
So I was like,
She delineates just the location.
7 to 9, like, you barely know. So,
I mean, there's exceptions.
yeah.
We just,
I feel like that.
doing
I
just did.
I mean,
Exceptions really great. So
because you broke right up from February. Yeah. So they all get along. Because you had, like, my kids were gonna walk, and then it was like, you know, down this. We all moved out here together.
All right, gotta watch my kids have run the nationals.
For a couple of years, yeah. Yes, yeah, when we all moved out together, it just like. So it was like. I mean, I've been.
She said Emily.
you text? Oh, well, I see it now.
See, there's a new council told.
No.
Just did polls.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. I told Alan to call you, did he not call you? Holy smokes.
We get, I think, like girls and boys are both like 4.
So I do feel like the timing, there's something else.
I don't know what kind of advice that's, so I kind of said like, hey, that's not good advice or an answer.
I know.
Here,
I know.
Definitely.
I mean, you need to.
I get it. Who gave him a JD? I'll never know. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's very nice.
Alan does have an email, and I will reply to you.
I don't. I do.
Yeah, you should. It's just,
Yeah, you should do that.
A, Houston, no dots, at. OU. Is it OU? I don't. Sorry about that.
I was thinking. It's okay, I get it.
I gotta get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what, I would.
Well, then I bumbled into the name.
That happens to me every. Oh my God.
I'm sorry. It's like, oh.
So my mother was wrong, I'm very unforgivable.
No, you're definitely not. Yeah.
This is the most documents I've ever had to go through.
There's a lot. Yeah. Wow. I was an attorney, I think. And I don't. Yes.
We gotta start the recorder.
You're probably gonna need it more than me.
All right, we will reconvene this meeting at 8:05. Sorry, it was a little more than 5 minutes. All right, so moving on, our next application is for brought to us from Dirt Road LLC, a preliminary plat for a major subdivision. Alan, you got the floor.
Thank you, Chairman. As you can see in the staff report, it's what Skylar described to me as an old-fashioned subdivision that you used to see frequently. You know, something like Brazil or Hay Meadow or throughout the 80s and 90s. But there's going to be 16 lots zoned R10. They range in size from 11.2 to 10.14 to 14.2. Something like that.
I think it's 10 to 14.
Yeah, 10. Yeah, okay, and it's 180 acres. I don't know how many of you go frequently out Bull Creek Road and know where Diamond T. You drive up towards that arena. Right before you get to the arena, you'll bail off to your left a little.
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Oh. But I'll let Mike talk about it. He's been sitting there for 2 hours.
Yeah. Thank you. Mike Jackson with Rio Verde Engineering, representing Dirt Road LLC. Yeah, so this is an RR10. This was rezoned. Basically, this exact layout was presented at the time it was rezoned, so we really haven't changed anything as far as layout. Two things came up during the rezone that were discussed and spent quite a bit of time on. One of those being the water rights, the other one being road maintenance. So as you can see on sheet 2, that is basically the water distribution plan. The owners decided that they'd like to retain those water rights. We had a meeting back in February with the Highland Irrigation District, obtained consent from them with our plan for water distribution. This has been submitted one time to the Board of Control just to look it over. Because this is preliminary plat, we didn't want to finalize anything. There's also possible questions into future as far as, availability of water, because this is at the end of the Highland Canal. So still working through that, but we have the distribution plan ready to go. So that was definitely looked favorably at by the Highland Irrigation District, because the other option would be to abandon. So I will bring up that we did include a preliminary draft of the covenants, specifically with item, let's see which one it is. Item H under 9, under governing committee. This would be, so before final plat comes around, this will be modified basically. They have a large tract subdivision directly to the west of this, and maintenance is also set up in there to where maintenance, goes from the large tract subdivision all the way to Pole Creek. So as it's written right now, you can read into it as, they're responsible for the roads inside the subdivision. Because of the additional lots up there, they've decided to just take maintenance and be responsible for maintenance from Pole Creek down Badger Ridge Road, Fort Trail into the subdivision. So that will be reflected on the amended, or not amended, but the final draft of the covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So those were two of the bigger items that came up during the rezone. And obviously, going through major subdivision, I had a meeting with Mr. Cooper, Mr. Pate with Road and Bridge, and the then Administrator Dennis Fornstrom, just to discuss fire and access, concerns like that. Normally, there needs to be 2 separate locations, sources for 10,000 gallons in a subdivision this size, based on, back and forth. Ultimately, it was decided that we put it in one kind of central location at the beginning of the subdivision, and just include the 20,000 gallons in one spot. And I'm sure, when you get to it, Mr. Cooper could probably speak to that as well. We do have all the road plans ready to go. Those won't be really necessary until final plat. At that point, we'll also have the plans. I have plans of meeting with Mr. Cooper on the installation of the cisterns and, the pickups and the vents and everything like that, insulation, so that he'll have that pre-approved before we have it submitted for final approval. This has been through, I guess on this plot I show kind of what the size of a standard leach field for a normal residential house would be, so you can tell the scale. There's no setbacks or envelopes other than what the DEQ would require normally from wells, property lines, things like that. And obviously the ditches. So we also had EA, Mr. Wetstein. He's done a lot of these. He's a professional geologist and engineer. He does, we subbed him out to do the DEQ water and sewer study, provided that report to you so you kind of see what their findings were. It's a lot of reading, but if you drill down into it, basically this is slated for traditional leach fields. They've looked at drawdown on, if all these lots all had wells, how that would impact any neighbors. Didn't find any ill findings on that front. I talked with Mr. Wetstein today. Actually, we should be receiving the final comments from the DEQ. The commission should be receiving that within a week. So this was submitted back in May. They had some questions on some of his calculations. He resubmitted that in middle of June. So at this point, there's nothing official, but whatever those recommendations are would be adopted on the face of the plat, if there are any that they have regarding septics or wells. Trying to think what else I could tell you. There's easements set up on the Highland, dedicated to the Highland for irrigation. They've approved all that. I've basically took this plat to their meeting, showed them what we were doing, what we want to do with the water rights, and so they've signed off on that. I believe I submitted the signed consent as part of the application package. Sat down with the Wyoming Game Fish Department on this, and this is a pretty unique area because there's not a lot of places really in Sublette County that you can go and not be in sage grouse core habitat or mule deer migration areas. So, I mean, you probably saw their recommendations, but it was really had to do with wildlife friendly fencing and like weed control during construction. And other than that, that's kind of an opening statement as to, what this application is, what the subdivision is. And I'd be happy to field any specific questions y'all have.
I have a question that is related to any major subdivision. Maybe you have the answer, or maybe Chief Cooper, or maybe Alan or Tess. I should have asked this in the last one too, but the who takes on the responsibility of maintaining the fire or the fire suppression systems? Is the county? Is that TBD or? Okay.
I believe, well,
I know it was up for discussion, but I didn't know if we landed on anything. We meaning other people.
I believe that the operation of the cistern would be up to Sublette County once it's approved. Once construction's approved, that's all the construction of everything is up to the landowners. And then beyond that, at this point, the landowners are responsible for keeping it clear, plowed, but the using the water, flushing it is up to the county.
Okay. Chief Cooper, do you have any comments or thoughts?
To answer the specific question, the current regulations are silent on the subject. So there's nothing written down that specifies who's going to maintain, with the installation of these water supplies. Here's the reality is though, I mean, if the fire department is going to use water out of it, we're going to take care of it and put water back in. So, and I'll make that commitment. I can't, there's nothing written down. It's something that I've submitted for consideration in future planning and zoning regulations. It's something that does need to be addressed. Is ongoing maintenance and there's some language that we've proposed, but as it stands right now, the regulations are silent. But like just like you said, I'll make the commitment that if we use water out of it, that we'll replace that water when we're done with it. And since I'm standing up here, just like Mike had said, my request to the development of this is rather than having two separate water supplies, my recommendation was to combine those two water supplies so that they're centrally located. They're more valuable to me and to the fire department to be able to use 20,000 gallons rather than two separate 10,000 gallon sources. And so I appreciated that inclusion there in the recommendations here. And yeah, I stand in support of the project as it moves forward.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions.
Sorry, I'm gonna share these. So actually, I don't have a question. I do have a comment though that I commend the applicant for addressing the issue with the road because that was a major, it was a concern of mine. I'm very, very familiar with this lot. We grazed it for years. And so I know, especially coming up along that stupid white fence, it blows in horrible and then it gets super muddy. So, but I appreciate you guys addressing that because that was one of my concerns. I think that this subdivision is great. I am 100% for it. But like I said, that was just probably my only concern with it was the road. So I do appreciate you addressing that. Also, and I'm not sure if this is the proper time to say it or not, but Commissioner Esmich, I would like to recuse herself from this application. So otherwise, does anybody else have any questions right now for the applicant?
I just say just our bylaws say that if you recuse yourself, you should go sit in the audience.
Oh, and that's my bad. She asked me that and I told her wrong. I thought that she could stay here as long. Sorry.
That's all right.
She's gonna leave now.
Most bylaws say you got to leave the room. We said we're okay with you staying in the room.
Yes. Sorry, Gudrid. That was my bad.
I do have a question. Oh, yes, thank you. I haven't lifted enough weights today. My question is, so when I do like this subdivision, but it does concern me with how big the lots are. And that if every lot owner fences in their lots, it really creates havoc for any animal that's trying to get through. And in our subdivision, our plat says you can't fence in your lot boundaries. And is that something that we can do something about and just say you only fence in a resident, you just can't fence in your whole lot? Is that something you guys have done before? Because it has been done on our plat. And I just think for how big these lots are, maybe people won't fence in their lots, but I don't know.
This made lot owners having a horse or two.
I guess if you have livestock. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically set up as, I wouldn't want to say hobby farmers, but I mean, for, small amounts of livestock, there's going to be water rights included. So they'll definitely want to have the option to be able to fence the perimeters. The covenants do address what kind of fence that can be, that the only barbed wire allowed is the exterior of the subdivision proper, and everything else is wildlife friendly. So, I mean, just the way it's set up and, what the uses could be for out there, I think they'd want to be able to maintain the ability to build fence on the perimeters.
It's just an idea.
Yeah, it's a very, I was, the fencing thing was, I had a similar thought of that. I didn't have a solution for it. So that's an interesting thing, but I do also hear that some of these folks
Right.
may very well want to, and there's a good reason for it.
Well, I just decide, just because it's smack in the, I mean, this is just really an addition to some of the other subdivisions that are out there. I was just trying to think of a better way to do it.
I did appreciate the covenants addressing I feel like addressed the game and fish stuff with the wildlife friendly fencing. I thought the covenants were mitigated a lot of the things I would be worried about. So I appreciated those.
All right, are there any other questions or comments for the applicant right now? Okay, then we will move forward and open this up to public comment. We'll start with anyone in the room and then we'll move to anyone online. Is there anyone in the room that has any questions or comments? Okay, not seeing anybody. Is there anybody online that has any questions or comments in regards to this application? All right.
You all came just to listen?
Thoughts?
Was there a recommendation? I'm just looking back because I'm confusing two things, I think, but was there a recommendation game and fish around like construction periods, or am I misremembering?
I don't think so. But I could be wrong.
Find that real quick. Where is that?
Wildlife friendlier fencing. And prevent spread of weeds.
Yeah, nothing about timeline. Okay, cool.
Nope. Not on this one.
Which makes sense because it's not a migration corridor or critical,
Right.
or crucial winter habitat. Yep. All right.
I mean, I guess to me, I think this looks really good. I think the applicant did a great job. It's pretty straightforward. I think they addressed, like I said, my concerns that I had at rezone. They definitely addressed that. So I feel good about this one. I can't make a motion. You get to say the thing.
So just to be, there's no public comment at all? Because if it goes to motion, it's too late. So-
Yes.
I've got one question. You were talking about road maintenance. Is it just gonna be the main road going into the subdivision, or is it gonna be all the little off?
Yeah, it's just gonna be the main corridor, basically from Pole Creek down Badger Ridge, Fort Trail that leads into the subdivision, and then roads and.
Roads out to the main road.
Yes, sir.
Where you're stopping.
Yes, sir. If I'm understanding, outside of the subdivision.
Right.
Yeah.
You're talking about they're only gonna clear to there. And all of these roads in here going in.
Yes, sir.
Would be the homeowner's responsibility.
Correct.
And when you talked about maintaining water rights, I thought when I read it, I understood that they were going to transfer the existing water rights to an adjacent property or something, or did I misunderstand that?
No, it's all held on property.
So the same, okay.
It's a process through statute that goes to the Board of Control at the state engineer's office, and you basically show them, how you're going to manage it, with all these new lot lines and roads and everything. So in this case, we're just doing sprinkler irrigation. It's a pump system, which originally is what fed all this anyways, from about 3 miles north of here was a pump, but the conveyance is so tough up there with the sand that it hasn't been in operation for a long time. So this is like basically a new point of diversion that the state engineer's office recognizes, and then it just shows how it's set up. And also in those covenants, you probably noticed that we had irrigation That's basically just working through the details on how to assess for the water, whether it's metered or by the acre.
Okay.
But
And then Alan, you mentioned we had one public comment too. I wonder if we
Dan
could,
Huffman sent a letter and he's all for it.
Oh,
in favor of the
oh,
application.
super. Thanks, Van.
So that the irrigation, all of this irrigation is still gonna be active.
yes,
Okay. But those lots that you have, this lot here, you're gonna have irrigation going right through the middle of it. Or
Wherever.
wherever it sits.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, in the state engineer's office world, we have to work within quarters, and it doesn't really matter what's in a subdivision lot. So basically what we did is we kept the amount of permitted acreage the same in each quarter, and just maximized it to the best that we could. There's a small amount that we needed to detach, basically, because we have roads. We can't cover the roads, the new infrastructure with water rights. So we maximized it the best we could, and there's a small amount that would be basically detached. So there's a 5-year period where those could be moved somewhere else if somebody wanted to petition for that. But there's also 2 appropriations. The older one below the Highland Canal is a 1908 appropriation, and the one above the ditch is a 1950. And that 1908's, quite a bit more valuable just because of the priority date, and we were able to keep all those intact. So that's the history of the water rights there.
I think the only thought I had, and we should have done this in the last ones, maybe I'll write a note to the commissioners, but I think we should make it a condition of our recommendation or some sort of recommendation to the BOCC that language about if the language about if the covenants are changed that has to be approved by the BOCC should be in the covenants themselves.
And it is.
It is. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, it's not in the other one.
Yes.
So we should make that aware of.
Yeah, I think it's under governing committee. Well, it's under actually H, the one that we're talking about. It says paragraph 9H may not be changed, modified, or voided by a vote.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, non-issue.
Thank you. All right.
Editorial note.
Yes.
Amendment section references AH instead of 9H. I don't know if that matters, but.
Oh, good catch, Chase.
Look at you go. You can read.
I mean, if the hyphen's in the right place, I can yeah. I feel like I need to retain myself.
Mr. McKinney, do you have any comments or anything to say before we push forward? Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Okay, well, if there isn't any other questions or comments, would somebody like to make a motion?
Do we have the paper that has all the jargon on it? You got it, Chase?
I don't. I mean,
I pulled up the agenda,
I can
but it
fumble
doesn't
through
have
it
the-
like the last one if we want. But.
Oh, legal notice. Thank you. Yes.
Oh, you think it'll be Alan?
Yeah.
Tess, I'm so sorry.
She only has a couple weeks left. He's gonna work her to the bone.
Does somebody have the legal notice?
I'm sorry, here, I can.
Sorry, I was looking.
I mean, it's.
Oh
my gosh, we have so many plants, just pick one.
Yeah. There. Can I look at it? Yeah. All right. So I'll make a motion that having made the 9 findings, that we recommend approval of the application from Dirt Road LLC proposing the preliminary plat approval for the Dirt Road subdivision pursuant to Chapter 12 of the Sublette County Zoning and Development Regulations. This proposal would outline the development of 180.47 acres, rural residential 10 acre zone property, which is located within T33N R109W, Section 13, Northeast 4, Northeast Northwest. I don't need to say all this. Southeast Northwest, Pinedale, Wyoming. I was too close to the end of not finished.
Perfect. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
So we have a motion that all the findings have been made, and we would like to recommend approval for the preliminary plat brought forth by the Dirt Road LLC. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We need to go. Thank you guys very much.
Thanks,
we
Mike.
really appreciate it. Scooter, you can come sit back down now. Sorry.
Yeah. The one that I had to repeat myself.
Did you?
I don't think so.
Okay, so moving on to old business. I think that given the time and the fact that we just had our new board members, was that a sneeze? Bless you.
Little sneeze, you better.
But given the time, and since we have just had our brand new board members drink from a fire hose, I think that we will hold off attacking the regulation revision for tonight. Is everyone okay with that?
I'm okay with that, although I wonder if Mr. Fairbanks came and has any burning comments he wants to
Well,
say.
that's I was just actually gonna open it up and see if anyone had any comments on it because it is on the agenda. So
I was actually just curious, were there any developments with the big piney special meeting that I missed?
no, so there wasn't. So we basically just opened it up for public comment down there. And since we knew that we were getting a new administrator and we knew at least one new board member, that's what we just focused on, giving the folks in Big Piney an opportunity to go through basically what we've been doing the last few meetings and for them to be able to ask comments or ask questions and give comments.
I will say that there was a comment made there, though, that was very similar to yours around the 1 mile radius of heavy industrial and whether, that made sense. So that was another data point that in support of your inquiry there that was useful.
So with that being said, I would like to, what is on our agenda for August?
Oh, sorry. No, you have your computer. I thought I had yours.
2 cell tower CUPs.
There's 2, no, wait, there might be 3. I think there might be 3.
No, I don't think 3 will make it there on deadline.
Well, I think the larger consideration is, it's just a throw out there kind of idea is this all moves fast, right? Stuff comes in, we have to meet our 30-day notice, and that's very specific schedule. And we may not have, I don't know who's going to be working in the office. So, I mean, we got to keep scheduling applications. I know, where's Clayton?
Clayton's here.
He's still here.
Still here.
He's being
I'm
quiet.
just
Weird.
saying, we don't know. This is just being kind to bring up, I have no idea what's going to come in from until I'm,
Right.
5 more days that I have left. It could
Right.
be something huge. Who knows? So I just think it's something to consider about land use applications. I mean, I don't think towers are a big deal, but like I
Right.
said, tomorrow or Monday, Tuesday, whatever. I'm not saying that I can make that decision, but I think
Right.
it's something to just put out
We
there.
can't either. I mean, we could recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that we not do that until we have some, the bandwidth to take it on, which bandwidth, meaning people in the office to either replace or work with Alan or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like that's going to be a problem whether we say something about it or not, right?
Agreed,
Well, excuse me. I mean, didn't we, I put an ad in the roundup the other day. Union.
Right, no,
Yeah.
that was for August, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess,
Was that your question? What's on August?
Yeah, but we're also like looking at moving forward, like what things do we know are coming up?
yeah, so this one that
Oh,
we
you
just
mean-
got is on
well, yeah.
Saturday. Would be on-
Because what we're trying to do, Alan, is we would like to try to schedule when we're going to go over these regulations, because there are a lot of folks that are interested in it. And so rather than have to sit through, sorry, Casey, a 3-hour meeting, for nothing, at least have a pretty valid idea of when we're going to try to attack it. And then also, especially if we're going over new stuff, that way they have time to prep and look over the chapters, because we've been breaking it down by the chapters. So it just gives them a good opportunity that they can go through it and be prepared before with questions or whatnot.
Yeah, it will be interesting related to that. I mean, I think who our planning administrator is and what skills they come with. And I mean, I think that's going to be, I don't think that means we don't do anything. I think we still need to listen to the public and take those comments and stuff. But I think that's a factor that will have some influence in how we move forward.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. I wrote a few things down that I wanted to tell you guys. So with the change in staff, worst case scenario, this is the last meeting where everything is being on the web page as you guys have known it to be, because that is a really, really difficult platform that the county uses, and no one ever trained me, and I might not be here, and I couldn't imagine how anybody is going to be able to navigate that without significant help to put out notices, these agendas, you name it. So just please keep that in mind, and also relay to the public that there might be a pause on information that will be on our county calendar or the web page, etc. That was like future meeting schedule. I had a question mark, like who is going to, if you guys can't decide tonight or before I leave, then I don't know who's gonna, I guess somebody in the clerk's office, but.
About what exactly?
If we're going to schedule
Right.
future meetings, other than like our regular meetings.
I personally would think by the time we have our next regular meeting, we're going to know a lot more than we do right now about how things are going to go. So I think maybe we should wait until our next regular meeting to think about additional meetings personally, but I'm also open to other ideas.
Yeah, no, I would agree too, because I think there's so much up in the air right now. And yeah, because that's the thing is I'm glad that you said that, Tess, because I didn't think about especially stuff being available on the internet or on the webpage, because I mean, that is a big thing, because that's where we tell everybody to go and get their information from. And I mean, granted, like we have what's uploaded already, but if there's anything else that we need.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to schedule future meetings like we do, that's creating a Teams,
Right.
separate
Right.
Teams links and doing a number of steps, and that's what that's.
So, I mean, I think, is everybody in agreement that we hold off on doing any of the regulation revision for now, or just the special meetings? Should we put it on the agenda to go over it, or should we hold off on the August just to kind of see where things are at?
I think hold off till August.
Yes. Okay. So So yes, moving forward. So then our next meeting will be August, and it's just our regular meeting, the 21st. Okay, so our next regular meeting will be August 21st. Of course, anybody that has any comments or anything on the regulation revision is always welcome to come. We always have general public comment. They're welcome to come. They're welcome to make written comment, but we will not be progressing any further during the August meeting. And then hopefully at the August meeting, we'll have a little more direction where we're going to be at with staff and moving forward with that. And then hopefully, yeah, like I said, then hopefully we can have a little better idea of where we're going to go with it. So, all right, with that being said, we are to general public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment?
So there will be no more special meetings?
Not for right now. There will be, but we're just after August. We're just holding off for now until things get settled in the office better. We hopefully get a better idea. They get some people hired, and then we'll move forward. But we'll make sure that we let everybody know when it is. We'll publish. What the heck, Alan? You're trying to shoot me with it. No. Yeah. So, but like you said, so through August, there won't be anything in August. We'll just be a regular meeting. We won't discuss the regulations then. Mr. Cooper?
I'll be brief. I'm sure everybody wants to get out of here. I just wanted to make a formal invitation to the board as a whole. If you're not already aware of it or familiar with it, Sublette County Unified Fire spent a significant amount of effort building a community wildfire protection plan that identifies the highest risk areas of the county in regards to wildland fire and overlays that risk with existing infrastructure and then makes recommendations to mitigate and reduce that risk. The reason why I bring it up to you is that's something that would be in your wheelhouse for future planning and development that should be considered when subdivisions come before you. That would be something maybe you would consider in your regulations. But my thought would be is it's a pretty in-depth document. And so if anybody's interested, I will just leave the open invitation to please contact me at any time. I'd love to sit down with you and go over it with you and explain in detail, the how and the why of that document and how it'd be relevant to your responsibilities on this board. That's all I have.
And I'll just point out that is a layer in the GIS map now. I just noticed that the other day.
Yes, I did see that. So that's fantastic. And thank you very much. I know that that's a lot of hard work goes into that, but I think that'll be a very valuable asset to all of us.
Absolutely.
For sure. So thank you.
I won't be there. So I just wanted to touch base, and Holly, I think you were, Chairwoman Roberts. I believe you were on that email that I had with the commissioners on, or maybe you just put everybody on. I can't remember. But it has come up the idea of maybe doing a board training because you guys have a couple new board members. And so if this board is interested, I can try and coordinate. There's a gentleman up in Jackson that I've known for many years, and he's done these all the time. He's really good at it, and he is more than happy to come down and do a board training just kind of on board operations, kind of answer any questions, things like that. He does a really good job with it. And I was going to invite the commissioners and anyone else on any boards that wants to come. So if you guys are interested in that, then we can circle around and get some dates and figure something out. It's a great idea.
Sorry, emailed you back in my mind.
Oh.
I just didn't hit send.
You may have done it in reality.
I didn't see that, so I think you did just.
Just to that point, I'm so sorry. I gave Tammy the planning commissioner's handbook that the Wyoming Planner Association just approved.
Oh, cool.
If people want copies,
Yeah, I would love
them all. I just, I didn't want to, but I gave Tammy a copy. So, I mean, with the caveat that some stuff has definitions and all this, please don't take that as the county's definition.
Right.
This is just general best practice and the planner stuff. So there you go.
And everything's right in except secret ballots.
Super. Yeah, I think that sounds great. That's awesome. Thank you.
And I can continue to talk.
Sure.
I was going to say something related to what Chief Cooper was talking about is one thing that's coming up across the country, and I bet this is a hot topic in planners circles, but is, there's a lot of implications related to wildfire and people not being able to get insured or losing their insurance and stuff. And I don't know exactly how that plays in, but if it's not for planning and zoning commission, I would think it is related to land use and like board of county commissioners and county planning and stuff. So I think that's something that we need to be figuring out what the implications are to how we should be considering that, or if we should at all, or what, I don't know. But I think there's going to be huge ground shifts in who can get insured where across the country.
Right. And I do know from past discussions with Mr. Cooper that there's ratings too of how far you are from the ISO ratings. How far you are from a fire department, how far you are from a suppression unit.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff. And so like I said, I like to see them with these subdivisions and putting in the suppression units. But no, I agree with you. I think it's definitely something that needs to be brought up.
I just want to be more informed about it. I mean, maybe we don't do anything about it.
Right, but definitely.
Seems important.
For sure.
On that, and I don't mean to keep it for longer, but
this is very short.
Yeah.
It's one of our shortest meetings.
Mentioned that there's some planners groups, because when I received all the information I got on email, it was really overwhelming, and it still is very overwhelming. But can we go to the Board of County Commissioners, or I'm happy to pay for my own membership to the Wyoming Planners Association. And I didn't know if the board wanted to do that.
We don't have any money.
We did used to have memberships.
So Lake historically had a membership. I know.
I had one for a
years
while,
ago-
but
yeah,
then
years
Dennis
ago,
took
okay. So there's been memberships in the past, and I mentioned to Tammy when she expressed her interest, like a shift in staff, maybe there's some extra ones.
Right, maybe we can.
And I would seriously encourage it, because every spring they do host sport training.
And I think we have to be, like, if we're on it, we have to be signed up through our planners. We can't go and sign up directly.
I don't know, but
I'm pretty sure.
I can certainly find out. And a lot of our membership, at least 50%, is county commissioners.
Yeah.
I would just like to throw that out there, because there are a lot of things that I look at. Some I knew about, some I didn't, still don't.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And I think it
That's
might
a
be
great
helpful, especially just to keep up on, just like the fire suppression thing, just what Shad was.
Trends.
You can leave. I'm not going to ask any legal questions. About ready to-
Yeah, I know, out the door.
About ready to run out with every one leg.
I'm around.
What are you laughing about, Alan?
What are you laughing about, Alan?
Anyway, I would appreciate something like that. So
Sure,
I just thought I'd
yeah.
put it out there.
I support you going to the county commissioner.
I'll do it.
All of us.
I'll do it.
Oh. All right. Any other comments? Haley, you haven't talked yet. Are you sure? All right. So with that being said, I adjourn this meeting at 8:50 p.m. Thank you guys
Great.
so much for
Thanks.
coming.
Well, Tammy, you know what you talked about with the fencing, and like your subdivision has no fencing.
We
There's
have fencing, we just don't have fencing a lot.
So, I mean, that speaks to like something in subdivision design. It's called conservation subdivision, where an applicant can actually opt to do that kind of design, and there's state statute built around it and all kinds of things.